Awesome. Happy Tuesday, everyone. Welcome to the DeFi on Celo panel. My name is Mashiat. I'm very excited to be moderating today, especially with our awesome guests, Patrick, Rachel from GoodGhosting. We also should have Dylan from Mobius, and then I believe also Evan from Ubeswap and Robert from Dahlia Finance, which is going to be really awesome because they are building some of the more fundamental aspects of DeFi on Celo and helping us build a more robust ecosystem. So this is going to be a great discussion. How are you guys doing, guys?
Good. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah.
Okay, awesome. Yeah, really good. We launched on Celo, I think, 3 weeks or a month ago, and it's been really awesome. So it's been great to see all the community get involved there, and really excited to be part of DeFi on Celo.
Yeah, I know. I really love GoodGhosting. It's so much fun. Just like doing all the different types of quests and then getting an NFT at the end. It's a really very interesting way to like gamify the savings experience. Patrick, how are you doing?
Hey, good morning. I'm doing excellent. How are you?
I'm doing good. I just came from a really interesting sound healing session from our Builder Growth Circle, and it was a really awesome way to start the day. Very meditative and grounded.
Amazing. Yeah, that's powerful stuff.
Yeah. Just waiting for a couple more folks to join, and then we can get started. I think EHK is Evan.
Morning, Dylan.
Hi, Dylan.
How are you?
Doing pretty good. How about yourself?
Hey there, everybody. How are you?
Hey, Evan. Good to see you.
Hey, Patrick. Hey, Rachel. Hey, Dylan. How are you all doing?
Doing great.
Good. We're doing good. Awesome. I think we're just waiting on for Robert from Dahlia, but I'll add him in when he comes in and when he gets on live. Oh, I think that might be him. It's kind of hard to see people's like usernames and then guess. But awesome.
I say we just pull somebody from the audience in and see what happens.
We should probably try that. But yeah, let's just get started. I can kind of quickly introduce myself because I think I also haven't had the honor to meet Dylan and Evan previously. Hi, my name is Mashiat. I am a partner on the research and innovation team, and I am based in Toronto. For some of the folks in the audience who haven't heard about the Research and Innovation Circle, we are a pretty new circle in the Celo Foundation, and we are focused on identifying high-impact opportunities to build new innovative solutions on the Celo network and within the Celo ecosystem. Some of the things that we tend to do is that we do a lot of research, whether it's around the market, around the users, the different use cases of crypto. And then we run a lot of prototypes and pilots to validate some of our hypotheses and then help attract a lot of builders to scale those solutions for the Celo ecosystem. And so I think this is some of the work that we've been doing in the past 5 months has definitely been centered around DeFi. So we've had the chance to interview a lot of folks who've been using a lot of your awesome products, and we've been looking into what the future of DeFi on Celo could look like as well. So yeah, before I kind of start the discussion, for those in the audience who may not know you guys, would you guys like to go on a little intro about yourself and then maybe what you're doing, and then maybe answer a fun question on if there is one food that you could eat every single day, what would it be? So Patrick, why don't you start, and then we can go forward.
Yeah, thanks, Mashiat. And good morning, everybody. My name is Patrick. I'm the founder of Moola Market, which is a borrowing and lending protocol built on Celo that allows owners of Celo native assets like Celo dollars, Celo euros, and Celo earn compound interest, which is paid for by borrowers who are able to take either over collateralized loans in perpetuity, under collateralized flash loans, or in the new version that we'll be migrating to tomorrow, unsecured delegated loans. And my food, if I could eat every single day, would probably have to be strawberries.
Wow. When are strawberries in season? Is it like now?
In California, it seems like all year round, but generally in the summer.
Yeah, that's why you're lucky. I wish I could eat strawberries all year round, but winter's setting in. Awesome. Yeah, I'll go across my screen then. Evan, do you want to go?
Yeah, happy to follow. I had some strawberries this morning, so yeah, I guess they are in season. My favorite food, just to keep the theme, is bananas. So, you know, it's a good way to start the day. Anyway, I'm the leading Ubeswap on the business side. Ubeswap is the largest Celo native DEX. We've integrated Flora, Moola Market, so we're launching a number of Celo governance tokens, such as Mobius, which is the most recent one. We're launching Nox token later this week. So we're all about fostering community and growing the Celo DeFi ecosystem. And really, it's an exciting, been a past few weeks with Ubeswap and the launch of DeFi for the people. We've seen TVL and trading volumes grow very significantly, and we hope to continue that momentum. So thanks for having us here.
Oh, thank you for being here. Awesome. Rachel, do you want to go ahead?
Yeah. Yeah, of course. Just unmute myself. So yeah, thank you for having me here. My name is Rachel. I'm founder of GoodGhosting. GoodGhosting is a DeFi sort of saving protocol. We want to incentivize people to kind of make regular deposits and save regularly. And we use that, using gamification. So on Celo, we are building actually on top of Moola. So that's really helping us out there. Basically, they're sort of social saving pools. You join them. And as you mentioned, you kind of pay in either weekly or either monthly, depending on how the pool is set up. And as long as you make those regular payments, you get a slice of the interest. So we see around like 25% of people on average seem to drop out. So you will get a higher interest rate than if you go directly. But we're also building out an NFT strategy. So at the moment we work with the NFT artists. So you get some really cute NFTs, and we're gonna build this out more and more, and kind of in the space of like incentivized gamified savings, which is super exciting. And it's great to be in a really like composable and collaborative ecosystem like Celo. In terms of favorite food, I was actually going to say something which I feel after the previous two answers, I feel is technically more of a dish, but I would go with bibimbap because I pretty much did eat it every single day when I was in South Korea. So yeah, I really love that. So I'll go with that one.
Yeah, that's exciting. Wow, bibimbap. Yeah. And that's awesome. I mean, like one thing to note, I think you guys also just launched the Celoween quest on GoodGhosting. So shout out for that.
We did. It actually has reached capacity. So we are going to be launching another one soon. So I'm just talking to my team members around that and trying to get some more custom NFT art. So keep an eye out. If you miss Halloween, there's going to be a new pool launching sort of in the lead up towards Christmas, which I hate to say, but like it's actually a great time to start saving for Christmas now, even if it still feels a little early. But yeah, there's going to be more pools coming out. So keep an eye on GoodGhosting.
Nice. Awesome. And last but not the least, Dylan, how are you doing today?
I'm doing good. Great to be here. I'm Dylan. I'm one of the lead developers of Mobius. Mobius is an exchange for cross-chain assets that are hold a similar peg. So for example, going from USDC from Ethereum to CUSD. We're kind of trying to facilitate what we call the great migration into Celo, kind of as people discover the Celo ecosystem and they want to transfer their assets into that from other chains. Right now, we're working really hard to go to full decentralization, and we hope to be like one of the first fully decentralized protocols on Celo.
Yeah, and you guys are also kind of the interface also for optics, which is also very interesting, I think, in terms of interoperability aspects for DeFi. Also, what's your favorite food if you could eat it every single day?
I totally forgot about that part. My favorite food, I'd have to go with mangoes. I'm a big fan of mangoes, but they're not ripe much of the year. So
yeah, I love mangoes too. They're relatively versatile, and you can also have like some savory dishes with them too. Hi, Robert. Thank you for joining. Do you want to give a quick?
Sorry that I'm late. I know I'm kind of pushing it here.
No worries. Do you want to do a quick intro about yourself, what you're working on top of Celo, and then if there's one food you could eat every day, what would that be?
Yeah, that's a great question. So I'm working with Kyle on Dahlia, which will be a leverage yield farming protocol on the Celo blockchain.
Nice. And what would your one food be if you could eat it every day?
Oh, yeah. And then the one food, that's a good question because I'm one of those people that kind of, oh, actually, this is easy. Probably a cheeseburger. If I could choose, probably a cheeseburger. Yeah, that'd definitely be my go-to.
I love that. It contains all of the food groups, carbs, protein, and fat. So very
exactly. And they're delicious.
And they're delicious. Yes, absolutely. Awesome. So let's get started. So for today's kind of discussion, some of the concepts that I kind of want to center the discussion around was mobile DeFi or MoFi. That was kind of one of the opportunities that from the research angle, we also saw in terms of DeFi on Celo and what that could look like. So yeah, I guess in terms of an open question for all of you guys, what does mobile DeFi mean for you? Or like, what do you think mobile DeFi, the definition of mobile DeFi is? Anyone can kind of start. Totally fine.
Yeah, I'll jump in on that. So in my opinion, mobile DeFi is really just about providing financial products and services that are accessible on a mobile device. I mean, it's I think it's somewhat self-explanatory, but it's one of those things that when you really jump into the problem set, it's much easier said than done. There's a lot of hurdles of getting secure systems and access onto these devices, but it's incredibly important because there's many billions of people in the world where the only computer that they have access to is their smartphone. And if we're not building to give access to this large swath of the population, then we're doing a disservice. So I'll throw it over to Evan, see what he has to say about that.
Yeah, I love following Patrick and just saying that I agree with him on these panels. But yeah, he's right. He hit the nail on the head. There's a number of components to actually making mobile DeFi possible. From the tech stack, so yeah, you need a fast chain with low gas fees. You also need the chain to be light, so it's not very resource intensive for a mobile phone to connect. Also, Celo has the phone number, essentially the identity protocol baked in at the protocol level. That's really exciting, and I see even more innovation on that front for people to tie identities to other identifiers than just phone numbers in the future on Celo. And so that makes it easy for anyone, no matter how they're communicating, what chat methodology they're using to connect with Celo. And importantly, the UI of any application reaching an end user needs to be intuitive and simple enough, which is not, again, that's easier said than done with DeFi, which sometimes can be complex. But I think the entire ecosystem is doing a great job making these interfaces very user friendly. So, yeah.
Nice, awesome. And going off of that, like in terms of the usability aspect, I know Rachel, like GoodGhosting, you guys have been trying to make like DeFi really accessible for folks like beyond crypto, right? How has that journey been in making sure that the interface is very easy to use, but also like somewhat guided as well for the user, just so like the user knows what to do next, right? Rather than us assuming what the user knows about DeFi. Could you kind of speak to that? as well in terms of making it more accessible?
Yeah, it's so it's a good question, and I think it's definitely like it is a journey. I would say like we start on it. It's not there like fully yet because you know, as it does take a time to kind of to make it really intuitive and really kind of really user friendly for like real tail I can't speak today, real tail users, but like we're definitely going that way, and we've done a lot of things. Like, so we had a team member, Jesse, who has a background in UX design, so he did a lot of like user testing and like jumping on calls with people to like watch them navigate through the UI. And you know, it's always interesting because like very stupid things that you code into the front end that seem to make sense, you just realize make no sense. So that's kind of definitely something that we include as part of our process. And then just also being very close to our community in terms of Discord, because you get a lot of feedback from people. Like, if, you know, if stuff isn't working, you know, they will tell you. And I think that's something that's we have a little bit different in this space, perhaps compared to like normal tech, that, you know, we do have Discords where you can reach out and message, but, you know, we can't just rely on that. Like, we need to kind of do our testing to go forwards. Yeah, so I think it's always like an iterative process. And I think we kind of really are at the beginning of the journey with GoodGhosting, because we are still, you know, pretty new. But it's kind of just trying to break it down, and like we want to kind of, so basically we can build on top of protocols like Moola, but it's almost like we can abstract a lot of the complexity away. And like users just need to know that, you know, I'm making these deposits, this is how much I'm going to get, this is, you know, what the APY might be, and just trying to take out as much of the complexity as possible. So yeah, and I think just as the space evolves and we kind of also mature our product, and we also want to work on things like our own mobile app, etc., to make it really where the users are and making it very mobile first. But yeah, that's pretty much my answer.
Nice. Yeah, no, that's kind of helpful for like future builders who are also trying to build on Celo and trying to build a more intuitive design to attract more users that may not have like pre-existing crypto knowledge. And going beyond that, like as you're trying to make, and this is also a question for Robert and Dylan as well, like a lot of the decentralized protocols, you know, there's multiple actions, right? Like you could do staking, you could do farming, you could do swaps. How, as you try to make it more accessible for users beyond crypto, how does that kind of fit into your guys' roadmap as well? Or if that does fit in with your roadmap in terms of the audience that you're targeting?
So I can take this one. So this isn't not directly related to Mobius, but another project that OpenCelo is working on is kind of this DeFi wallet to kind of be the center for DeFi and Celo, and that will be mobile first. It'll be a mobile application. And so for that, what we're doing is using a smart contract wallet, so we can bundle up all of these calls into one single transaction. So like a user could deposit into an Ubeswap farm just from a single token. So like you go from CUSD in one transaction, split it to MCUSD and MC Euro, and then deposit into the pool, and then deposit those LP tokens into the farm. And so that's something where like that kind of flow, just kind of abstracting a lot of the processes that can make DeFi seem scarier or more intensive than it is, I think is a big part of building for mobile first.
Nice. Yeah, that's actually really cool that you could do like that. You're bundling up a lot of the transactions. Yeah, Robert, do you have like any thoughts as well in terms of, well, where you guys are with Dahlia as well? I know that you're, I'm not fully sure. Have you guys like launched? Would like to hear some status on that too. That'd be really cool.
Yeah, absolutely. So Dahlia currently is on a public alpha. And so essentially what that entails is we've fully launched on testnet. The more exciting news that we were kind of hoping to condense in a nice tweet is that we will be launching incredibly soon, like very, very, very soon. And that will be announced over a tweet, hopefully tonight or tomorrow, or you know, in the next couple of days.
That's so great. Congratulations. Yeah, very excited to try it out. Awesome. So when it comes to, I know like Dylan, you've been talking a lot about one of the ways that we can abstract some of the difficulty of using DeFi for non-crypto audiences is by bundling up a lot of the transactions and making it easier. And I guess like in terms of when it comes to just financial tooling in general, whether it is in Web2 or Web3, what are some of the hurdles that users tend to face today when it comes to these type of financial services, and how are you guys trying to mitigate that as well through your products?
I'm happy to kick this off, if that's okay. This is a great question. So I kind of see this, like breaking this down into two ways. One is overcoming the hurdles of, understanding, so that people know kind of what these products are, what the tooling entails, kind of at least what's going on behind the scenes. And so I think every protocol in Celo I've seen so far has done a really good job of explaining that. So that's important. And then two, kind of what Dylan alluded to is actually connecting these various building blocks together to kind of build that DeFi house on Celo. And so, yeah, Ubeswap right now is directly integrated with Moola, using Moola, stablecoins and other tokens on our platform. Pretty soon, we're going to directly integrate with Dahlia. That's been announced, and then we're also looking to directly integrate with Mobius too. So I think just making like launching the right products in the right way that benefit the right user, and leveraging what people are already building, and that's compatible with what you're doing is a great way to bring all of these tools to the end user.
That's awesome. Do you also foresee, like, with all of these sort of integrations and this level of composability on top in the Celo network, do you also see the need in the future to have some sort of a DeFi primitive on top of which all of these solutions and integrations live on? Or do you think that in the way that it's being built now, it is sustainable enough to hold, larger volume of transactions and users?
Could you share sort of what you mean by a DeFi primitive layer?
Yeah, so almost like a piece of infrastructure on which there is products like Moola, but then there's also Ubeswap, and then the integrations with Ubeswap and Moola also live on those, and other products and other builders can come on and build on top of you guys, or they can just plug into that primitive or into that type of infrastructure to provide their services.
Yeah, sort of like a more advanced and serviceable layer two. 100%. I think that's, Celo Labs is doing tremendous work. I used to work there on building the layer one and then making layer two, fully EVM compatible, and building out, more tools for, CBDCs and otherwise. And I think that perhaps, that type of infrastructure could be done in collaboration with Celo Labs, essentially the community building alongside with the core engineering team that launched the protocol would be really, really great and successful.
Nice. Awesome. Yeah, that's great. And when it comes to just savings and loans as well, I know, Patrick, Moola Market has definitely been leading in that direction. When it comes to the future of savings and lendings on top of DeFi, some of the things that you mentioned that you were looking into was also under collateralized lending. How does that kind of play out, or how has that been kind of working out for Moola, or how do you envision that on top of Celo?
Yeah, so in the current, in the first version of Moola, the only way to get a loan is by posting collateral. And that's great for people who have collateral because they can unlock liquidity. You can also use this type of tool to take a leverage long position or a short position in the price of an asset. So it's useful in these regards. But most folks in the world that we're building for don't have collateral that they can post. And if they do have some sort of collateral, it's probably not tokenized and fungible and has a market price that can be obtained and used in this type of mechanism. So the question is, how do we get unsecured loans to the rest of the world, to entrepreneurs, to cash flow positive businesses that may just do business in a part of the world that's inaccessible by the current financial infrastructure, but they have access to the tooling that we're building on, that is mobile devices. And one potential solution is through credit delegation, which is a mechanism where when you deposit collateral into Moola, you get a line of credit that you can borrow against. If you don't want to borrow against it, then you can delegate that borrowing capacity to another address. That address could be an individual, it could be a family member, it could be a business that you want to support, or it could be a DAO. It could be a smart contract that has a set of parameters that's willing to delegate based on certain information. One of the things that's beautiful about a blockchain network is that when you achieve certain network effects, you start to get very rich data that can be used to infer credit worthiness. And so the problem of how you make credit decisions really starts to resolve itself over time. It's a bit of a flywheel problem where you have to have a certain amount of usage before that data becomes useful. But over time, it becomes incredibly rich and you can really make informed credit delegating decisions, and you can start to build credit portfolios. And so my vision, my hope is that this tool set will be utilized in such a way that we'll be able to provide low cost capital or fair priced capital to entrepreneurs around the world, which will ultimately unlock more capital because businesses will be able to grow and generate economic activity. That's how I see it evolving.
Thank you for explaining like how credit delegation would potentially work on top of Moola. When it comes to like the user putting in the collateral and then getting that credit line to borrow against, how would the mechanism for increasing or extending that credit line work? Would there be like some sort of a reputation system as well?
So the first version of the tool is, and this is live on version 2, by the way, which we'll be migrating to tomorrow. Nice. You can, well, let me qualify that statement. It's live if you can use the CLI commands, but the functionality is there, and we're working on a front end that will tap into this functionality so that folks who go to app.moola.market will be able to make this type of the credit delegation decision and repay it. It's, Rachel hit on this before around design decisions and how you can make design decisions that you think make sense. And then when they get out into the real world, you realize that it was a flawed assumption in the first place. And solving this kind of coordination problem is complex, and so we're going to give it a shot and take feedback and continue to iterate on it. I think that there's a lot of room for improvement in just learning and seeing how people apply this tool. I don't remember what your original question was. I'm sorry, I went on that tangent. But
no, that makes sense. Yeah.
But this will be, so we'll be rolling this out. We'll be rolling out a front end application, which will be a generalized tool, which will allow people to delegate their borrowing capacity to another address. And the assumption is really that credit worthiness decision is being made exogenous to Moola. It could be you run your own analytics on the chain and you make a decision. It could be that you've met offline or off chain and you know what address you're delegating to. But the first version is basically just a generalized tool that can be used to delegate borrowing capacity.
Nice. Nice. No, thank you. Thank you for that. And that's really cool. I'm actually very excited to try that out too. Awesome. When it also, and I guess like I'd also love to explore this other component of like financial tooling with like Dylan as well in top of Mobius. Dylan, you guys have been you guys have launched alongside with Optics, and that has also been a really cool experience just watching your platform grow. When it comes to like the bridging of financial tools in like the DeFi ecosystem or in terms of crypto, how important is that, or how fundamental is that to like the growth of the ecosystem, and why is that necessary, and maybe what are some challenges that are still there in terms for users of using these type of tools when they want to bridge over different layer ones and reap the benefits?
Yeah, I think bridges are going to be huge in the long term, kind of the future of just kind of like all these interconnected blockchain networks. Obviously, that'll be powered by bridges. Right now, I think one of the main pain points for at least optics is the time it takes for bridging. The part of like the cost you pay for optics being trustless is that it takes around 4 hours. And so those 4 hours, a lot of times users could feel like their funds are in limbo, sort of. And I think that can be a very scary feeling because we're not really used to this idea of like, most people aren't used to like, do like a fully trustless system. And then going off of this, I think another part is just overall availability of CUSD in the Celo ecosystem. What we're seeing right now is that kind of with the onset of optics and people bridging their assets over to Celo, CUSD is currently like trading at a premium because there's not enough to fulfill the need of people on Celo. And so I think that will be like one of the next main things to tackle is just making, just like kind of figuring out that CUSD shortage.
Nice. Yeah, definitely the challenge of on-ramps and off-ramps is also something that the research team has identified. That's very essential to the growth of the ecosystem. And this is, I guess, a question for everyone. How do you guys like propose that we attract better builders to build better on-ramps or off-ramps, or us ourselves, you know, go forth and get listed on better exchanges? Like, how do you think we can, as a community, as a network, do a better job at that, building the necessary on-ramps and off-ramps for these type of transactions so that we can ensure better trust in our ecosystem as well?
Yeah, so there's, I mean, there's not one solution to that. That's I would say that it's partially a network effect, and as more people start using the platform, then more builders will come in, and these sorts of things will just happen in an emergent way. With that being said, there's funding available for building on-off ramps through the community fund, which if you're building an on-off ramp of any sort, which can take many different forms. An off-ramp could be a point of sale solution where I can spend my Celo dollars. You know, that's the equivalent of selling dollars and buying a good. An on-off ramp could be a mechanism where you have a marketplace and I can provide my services in exchange for Celo dollars. That's an on-ramp. So it doesn't necessarily have to be just a centralized exchange like Coinbase, even though that sort of on-off ramp is vitally important and is very efficient. These on-off ramps can take many different forms. They can be peer-to-peer. They can be, you know, like what we've seen with M-Pesa and airtime minutes, and where you have both individuals as well as merchants that, you know, may sell other goods and services and commodities. But this is also a service that they provide in order to drive traffic. Another amazing on-ramp into the ecosystem is Impact Markets, which is an unconditional basic income platform that is really just an amazing project it's one of these great examples of composability and how the technology can be used to do good and at the same time help grow an ecosystem. And so what we've seen is that a lot of projects have either signaled or are in the process of providing some support to impact markets and funding the markets themselves. The Ubeswap community has talked about this and intends on submitting a proposal to send some of the transaction fees to these markets. I believe that the Mobius community has signaled something similar, and I certainly would love to see the Moola community also do this. And so by taking some of the activity, the economic activity, redirecting it to this mechanism where we can get money into the hands of people who, one, need capital, and two, can turn right around and start using the tooling that we're building, is really just like this self-reinforcing growth mechanism that I think is underrated in how powerful it is. And so I'm incredibly excited for that. Rachel, do you have anything to add to that?
No, not really. I mean, yeah, super excited to be following what Impact Market is doing. And I think also if it's getting support from like other projects. I think that's fantastic. And I think just as the ecosystem grows, these solutions do start to kind of solve themselves more and more. But yeah,
nice.
Super excited.
No,
about that.
And I love that, Patrick. How you mentioned that we have to kind of rethink what an on-ramp and an off-ramp mean, and kind of redesign the mechanism in a way that is accessible for people as well, because not everyone can go online and access an exchange to get Celo or CUSD. So love that. Evan, I saw your mic go off. I would love for you to add, and anyone else, please go ahead.
Yeah, and my perspective kind of comes from being in Celo Labs for 2 years and on the team trying to solve some of these problems. And especially it's really tricky for a core entity to basically seed liquidity across the entire ecosystem. And a lot of centralized exchanges are pay to play. Pretty much every single one. Give us money, we'll list your coin in various formats. And some protocols have been very aggressive at this, you know, or maybe have been listed like a favored market maker to do that. So that's worked out in their favor. So I think Celo is thinking about this a little differently, trying to be a bit more decentralized. That takes time to build out, but overall ends up being a more robust you know, ecosystem, especially when you have, you know, unique ways to cash out, like Dahlia, which is integrated into Valora for gift cards, and Impact Market, which Patrick mentioned, you know, beyond say like the ramps and the Zanpools and the wires of the world. So yeah, I think liquidity is absolutely essential. Not just bringing money into the Celo ecosystem, but what about bringing Celo assets out to other ecosystems too, that also have some of these on-ramps established? That could be a really interesting way to grow the Celo ecosystem.
Yeah, no, that's a really good point. Absolutely. Yeah, Robert, would you like to add on to that? I know you have some awesome thoughts, just being a builder.
Yeah, so for I think the off-ramp and on-ramp kind of situation, even more broadly to DeFi in general, because there's a lot of complexity involved with DeFi, is I think the big question or the big trend that we're going to kind of see in the next year or two is going to see if there's this really emergence between mobile applications and services and sort of composable financial applications. So what I mean by that is, to me, it seems very unlikely that Uniswap Labs, for instance, is going to develop a mobile application just because of all the compliance challenges that come with maintaining a front end. And so the question I think I have really is, will these blockchains and the applications that exist on blockchains truly be a backend technology? And will, you know, current mobile applications that have kind of figured out the distribution problem, like PayPal, Venmo, just integrate with these decentralized composable financial applications on the backend? And so if that really occurs, I think that's really how you figure out the complexity problem, because PayPal and Venmo do such a great job and have such great teams that tackle you know, the challenges of making financial services more digestible to people.
Yeah, I mean, that's an interesting question. Love to extend it for everyone else. What are you guys' thoughts on that? Like existing Web2 applications that have figured out the complexity of being mobile, integrating with platforms like yours on the back end to provide a more holistic experience.
Yeah, that's definitely a trend that is emerging and will continue, you know, with PayPal and let's see, Cash App and I would say Facebook being the largest corporation that's also tried to do something similar and announced yesterday that they are piloting a Paxos integration. So this sort of thing is absolutely going to happen. You know, within the Celo ecosystem, you could say that the Deutsche Telekom, them stepping into the ecosystem, you know, potentially could emerge as the in a similar fashion. I don't know exactly how that's going to play out, but you know, there are lots of existing entities, trusted brands and applications that have many hundreds of millions, and in some case billions of users, and extending additional services to their user base, that can make a lot of sense. And so we shouldn't be so arrogant to think that we're gonna, that our front ends are gonna be the only one that anybody ever accesses. In fact, it'll be more resilient if there are multiple front ends to access these back-end systems. It'll make the entire ecosystem more resistant to attack. So I'm excited to see how that plays out.
Yeah, I think it's definitely like a really interesting, really interesting area, and I think I agree. I do think it is going to happen, but I also think at the same time can't be depended upon for innovation, because I think, like, for example, like we are like spending a lot of time to build our front end. Like in the future, there may be other front ends built out there, maybe other mobile apps and stuff. And I think, I think what would be great is if we see these like Web2 services start to tap in and start to utilize the technology. But I think we have to actually build something there for them to get, really, because, and that's what we've seen with like the front ends that have been built and are put out by most projects in some ways, because I think they're also going to, like, I don't know if they're going to lead the innovation. They may just like take the baton and then run with it a bit further than we, projects in this space could. So I don't know. It's going to be interesting, but I mean, certainly, like if we look at, some of the things that's happening in gaming with, blockchain projects being cut out of large platforms and stuff, there can also be an element of pushback. So I don't think it's going to necessarily be, one way or the other. And I think maybe if we only allow these Web2 companies to build the front ends, they may build it in a very non-innovative way, maybe a very user-friendly one, but they may just use it in a more kind of straightforward way that fits their existing business models. And maybe we don't want that,
Yeah, really good points. Yeah, Dylan, Evan, do you guys have like any thoughts on this kind of interesting strategy of Web2 merging in with Web3 for more mobile accessibility?
I think in overall, just like the general public's comfortability with DeFi in general, I think having these like larger Web2 companies kind of adopting it would go a long way to making people more comfortable interacting with DeFi in general, because it'll make it seem more accepted and more normal. But I don't know if I have much more to add to that than what people have already said.
Yeah, I think
there's a question.
I was just going to say that on our roadmap, on Ubeswap's roadmap is incentivized front end. So the idea is like build the liquidity, make it as easily accessible and a connected source of liquidity for the whole ecosystem to use. So that we're studying what other folks have done, like Liquidity has done sort of an incentivized front end program. So that's something to come later, but certainly I think can add a lot of value, and hopefully something that the Web2 folks would want to plug and play with.
And I think someone from our audience also kind of added in a very good question is in the fact that we're still talking about these types of front ends, how do you ensure or how do you prevent malicious front ends from being set up on top of your networks or on top of your protocols?
Yeah, that's a good question, and I don't know the answer to it. But I think that there's a few things that we can do in defense of that type of behavior, because it will happen, right? People will spin up front ends and claim that it does one thing when in fact it does another. And there's a few points. One is that we intend on maintaining a front end and access to the smart contracts at our URL for as long as we possibly can, right? And it's incumbent on us to make sure that does not become compromised. I think also the broad point is that when you have trusted brands, trusted brands that are known entities and they integrate, you can generally trust that they do QA processes and at least attempt to thwart any type of compromise. And then you get into the realm of, let's say that there's 100 different URLs that claim to access the Moola market contracts. How do you verify that those are correct and going to do what they say they do? And the answer is really, you would at that point have to either do your own research, or perhaps there's a way to coordinate through the community where there's an incentive mechanism to essentially evaluate the code and provide feedback and have some mechanism in place. But it's a good question, and I would certainly be open to hearing thoughts that anybody else has about how to solve that problem set.
Awesome. Yeah. Does anyone else have like any thoughts on how you guys are working on preventing like these type of malicious front ends from being set up? If not, we can like kind of move on. We have a couple more questions. I know that we were talking a lot about what the ecosystem kind of needs, and we went on this tangent of on-ramps and off-ramps. And one of the great points, Patrick, you brought up were one of the ways that we're going to be able to attract builders is obviously by having more users. And how are you guys working on that? How is attracting the right audience for your protocols going? What are sort of some different strategies that you're using for potential builders in our audience who want to start their own product on top of Celo?
Yeah, our strategy is one, been to get as many integration partners as possible so that we get as many users, and really just provide this base layer primitive of access to credit and access to yields, and having good documentation and customer support for projects that want to integrate, like GoodGhosting, and Poofcash is another one pulled together coming soon, and also having support in the chat channels, and just being accessible through as many different channels as possible. But again, this is a flywheel and a network effect that when you have users, then you get more builders, and when you get more builders, you get more users, and it takes time to get that flywheel spinning. But luckily, we've got a very mission-driven community at the core that is here for the long term and is really doing a lot of the heavy lifting. That when things start going parabolic at a very rapid pace, once you hit the so-called knee of the curve, there's really no looking back from that. And it's exciting to be in this community in this time, and seeing all the amazing things that people are building. But traditional forms of marketing and education cannot be underestimated. The importance of it. I think Evan mentioned this earlier, but we're introducing a brand new technology stack, and a certain amount of the complexity needs to be obfuscated away, like what Dylan is working on with Centro, and making those design choices of what needs to be hidden, and where you need to just teach people how to do something new. These are open questions, and they're kind of evolving. But there's always people who are ahead of you, and there's always people who are behind you in terms of level of knowledge. And so, being open and willing to answer questions and educate, and never assuming a base level of knowledge. I think that if we approach this with a bit of humility and openness and willingness to explain things multiple times to new folks as they come in, and teaching others how to teach others, then we've got a very strong formula for success in growing the community.
Yeah, I'm happy to offer a few additional thoughts on that. It really is, okay, first, Celo needs to attract more builders because they're more active on other chains right now. But it is amazing to see the tremendous impact that a few core dedicated builders can have, such as Robert, Dylan, Brian at Ubeswap, and Poof. So the ROI for bringing really high quality builders is insane, because you can take the whole protocol to the next level. And introduce a lot more, innovative primitives that are not on other chains. So I think, the DeFi for the people is awesome, and it's through the hackathon is going to bring a lot of new builders, and Ubeswap has a challenge there too.
Nice.
But basically, you can't just you can no longer just replicate what's on another chain, or just try and bring like something from another chain, to Celo. muddies the water, it cannibalizes the organic activity and the true nature of like the reason why people are building on Celo to begin with, which is financial inclusion and being mobile first. And I think keeping Celo unique is going to be core to attracting a lot of top builders, because most will say, well, if I can do this on another chain and make, you know, more money or have a bigger impact or get more users, I'm going to start there. Why am I going to start on Celo? So I think really what we have here is a core kind of unique DeFi structure that we're building on Celo. And there's, you know, 10 times more projects in the pipeline already on Celo, through Celo Camp, through the hackathon, you name it. So I'm excited to see this organic activity grow and move the whole Celo ecosystem forward and be a key selling point for why people want to build on Celo.
Yeah, I would just add to that, like, so like, for example, like my project, we came through like Celo Camp, like we had a lot of support, and I think that's like just testament to the commitment to like the developer communities in Celo, and I think that's great. And then also like, I think having this, you know, very mission driven ideas of inclusivity, also ideas around environmentally like sustainability. I think these are really important things that can, you know, bring you know, more developers to the space, but also ultimately more users as well. And I think it's you know, the Celo ecosystem is really growing, and from our experience of, you know, having launched on Celo, we're like, I would recommend, I mean, if you are a project and you're looking to launch on Celo, we're getting a lot of users coming to us from the Celo ecosystem, so that's been really amazing to see. So like, I would, you know, recommend it highly to any like DeFi builders out there who are like thinking about what chain to go on, etc., etc. And yeah, I think as it grows more and it just becomes, you know, richer and more impactful, really.
Yeah, these are all really good points. Yeah, Robert, please go ahead.
Yeah, I just wanted to say real quick. So Colin and I talk about this actually quite a bit. And for us, I think there are sort of three key areas for Celo to really kind of blow it out of the water. So first, they recently announced the ability to potentially go to 140,000 TPS, making it one of, you know, the fastest EVM compatible chains out there, which I think is going to be huge just for developers that are looking to build really, really fast and cheap applications on top of a blockchain. That is absolutely necessary. And then I think the second thing is really, really having great bridging. You know, over the next couple of years, you're going to see better communication standards, ones like optics, better bridging between different chains, and sort of more balanced liquidity across some of the major blockchains. And with better bridging, you're also seeing applications that exist on Ethereum bridging over to other blockchains, which means that the need to innovate on applications is going to, you know, the pressure to innovate on applications is going to be far greater, and that's going to be fantastic. And then the third thing is aggregators. I can't say this enough, but at the end of the day, blockchains are sort of like, you know, blockchains are sort of like the internet, right? You have applications that exist on the internet, just like you have applications that exist on a blockchain. The ability to aggregate across different composable financial services will be sort of key for balancing liquidity across different chains and making applications that exist on Avalanche, Celo, Phantom more appealing, because sometimes yields are more cost effective and more attractive on a blockchain like Celo than they would be on a blockchain like Ethereum. And so having really, really efficient routers and aggregators will really help a blockchain like Celo or Fathom or Avalanche that are more performant than sort of like the Ethereum base layer.
Yeah, those are some really, really good points in terms of how not only like us as Celo, we can internally, we can look at our strategy in terms of what is our key unique kind of selling points for builders, but also how do we foster like strategic building on top of the Celo network so that it's we're building out like the fundamental aspects of building a very robust and efficient DeFi ecosystem. And I guess like one last question, like what are you guys really excited about for mobile DeFi, like the future of mobile DeFi? Like, are there some cool things that you're seeing in the industry that you're like, oh yeah, that'd be really cool to have on top of Celo, or like Celo would be kind of uniquely poised to build that too? Or just cool thoughts and papers you've come across for like to attract more builders to build on top of Celo?
The most interesting mobile DeFi thing that I'm excited about right now is what Proof Cash is working on, privacy-focused stable coins, because in my opinion, this is the missing primitive that many payment systems in crypto have not had. The combination of mobile access with high throughput, low cost, 5-second finality, and now you're adding on a mechanism where you can send transactions in private. You can earn compound interest in a private stablecoin savings account, and you can do you can pay gas using the same token as well. When you combine all these things together, you're basically getting a payment system that very much provides the same level of obfuscation that traditional ACH, SEPA, the legacy payment systems provide to between parties, right? If I pay you, you can't see how much money is in my account, although all the corporations and government agencies in the middle can. But here now, when I pay you using this the Proof privacy protocol on Celo, you now have a mechanism where you can maintain a certain level of privacy and to disclose the information as you choose. And this is what's going to make crypto go mainstream, and specifically this is going to be one of the catalysts that helps Celo go mainstream, because many parts of the world, if you flash the amount of cash that you have on your wallet in your phone, that can become very dangerous. And if you run a business and all of the stakeholders can see every single financial transaction, then you lose competitive advantage. You're going to have problems with employees, seeing how much other employees make. There's just all sorts of problems. So I'm incredibly excited to see this primitive launch on Celo.
Nice. Yeah, that's a very good point. Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. And again, I'm going to follow up Patrick and agree with him. But basically, yeah, Poof is really exciting because that makes Celo much more institutional friendly, for sure, because you can't expose all of, it essentially trade secret. Like what are your financial flows? If everyone knows that, then you're not going to use blockchain. They're going to use a centralized database. So that is, I think, a core building block for institutions to come to Celo. I think also institutional cash in, cash out that's like built for the Celo ecosystem, so such as with Ponto, that's being built right now, is also another core building block to bring institutions to Celo. I think once those two pieces are solved, you have a lot of the other building blocks that they can then plug into. Like they already have stable coins, DeFi, you name it. They can, but I think Poof and Ponto are going to be really huge for Celo.
Nice, yeah. Dylan, do you want to go? What are your thoughts about like the future of MoFi? What are you seeing that's really exciting to you?
Yeah, I'm going to have to agree with Patrick and Evan, especially on Poof. They already kind of touched on this, but obviously privacy is huge. And that will hopefully really help with more kind of mainstream adoption from these larger companies. And then in addition to that, already kind of touched on this previously, but just like the general making everything easier to use on mobile, just kind of streamlining a lot of the DeFi flows.
Yeah, design and education is going to be a really big part of the process too. I agree. Yeah, Rachel, Robert, do you guys have like any thoughts on what cool things you're seeing in MoFi that could be awesome for Celo to like look into?
Yeah, well, that also Proof sounds like incredibly exciting. So I'm going to dig into that myself. I'm also interested, because it kind of aligns with what we're doing around the kind of intersections of aspects like NFTs, and also starting to see that come into marketplaces, and then also into mobile wallets. I think that's going to be a really exciting area as well. But yeah, that's it for me.
Yeah, and then for me, it's going to be central. Can't wait to see a beautiful wallet on the Celo blockchain that we can all integrate with.
Yeah, no, those are also very important components as well, like wallets and NFTs. I personally am also kind of digging more into NFTs and the intersection of NFTs and DeFi. I think there's going to be some really cool actions that we can do with NFTs and even fractionalized NFTs on top of DeFi, whether it comes to like staking or lending them or locking in the appraisal value and using that as a collateral. So that could be really cool. Yeah, no, that's awesome. In terms of, we do have a couple more questions, and I know we have a minute, but in terms of the Celo ecosystem, one of the questions was specifically around Southeast Asia. Have you guys been kind of looking into that in terms of your roadmap, or do you feel like there are some cool things that are happening in the Southeast Asian region that could be awesome for crypto or mobile crypto?
Yeah, Asia has, leapfrogged the rest of the world, partly because they just didn't have ACH and credit cards.
Mm-hmm.
So they're able to just move right into blockchain and use that as a source of income. Also, I think because, the amount you can earn through crypto has a much more meaningful impact in a country like Southeast Asia than, say, if you're, in the US. So, yeah, I'm really excited about Asia. Ubeswap is, launching integrations with a number of Asian wallets. Right now, we're going to announce it next week, so that'll be pretty big. But they're essentially integrating Celo and Ubeswap into their tokens and their dApp browsers, so it is more accessible to the rest of the Celo DeFi community too. But I think Ubeswap is a good place to start, and so we'll see how that grows. And we're also trying to make sure that our language and translations are up to date. That's an ongoing initiative right now, because that's something that a lot of Western developers may overlook. Is like how good is your Vietnamese translation? If it's not good, then people will kind of bounce. So yeah, these are some things related to Asia, and I think that's where a huge leg up in growth is going to come with the Celo ecosystem, because Celo hasn't quite been as focused on Asia than say other protocols.
Yeah. I mean, we've done, from the research angle, we've done a couple pilots in the Philippines, particularly. We've been doing some payday lending on top of Moola. So there's going to be an article coming out on that within the next week from the research team. Very excited to lean into the findings on that end. And then we've been doing some micro work stuff as well with using Valora in the Philippines as well. But yeah, it is a very big market, and there are so many smaller markets within Asia that that have really good opportunities for us to tap into. So that's really awesome, Evan, that Ubeswap is launching. Very excited. Yeah. So before I kind of end the broadcast, are there any other like additional points that you kind of want to leave our audience with, or just some thoughts?
What are your thoughts on Celo? How does Celo become a top 3 blockchain?
Yeah, I mean, I think some of the things that really resonated for me in this discussion has been definitely the discussion around design and education. Education is going to be a really key piece, and how do we integrate that into our design in a very intuitive way that balances both advanced users and also beginner users is going to be very key. I also think some of the talks and the mechanisms around what type of strategy do we go in terms of the whole ecosystem, understanding what is Celo's unique key value points. What type of RFPs do we, from the research angle or from the Celo team, put out to attract the builders that are going to build the more essential building blocks on top of Celo? And then, of course, like when it comes to like mobile DeFi, what type of intersections are we going to see, whether that is with NFTs? Some of the things that I'm currently looking at is within the NFT space. There's also capital markets that we're looking into as well, CBDCs, but also like just bonds, blockchain bonds. And then also like interoperability is a big one. And so is, like wallets. Wallets are going to be really important too, on-ramps and off-ramps. So these are some of the key things that we're also looking into in terms of putting out the right type of designs and RFPs, and also the right type of pilots that we can do and questions that we can kind of explore from our end to figure out what Celo's unique key value points for the community. And I think Evan also mentioned a really good point in that, like, we we have been in this fast follower kind of sort of space where we have been replicating a lot of what is on other layer ones, and that only gets us to like table stakes and parity. So we're definitely going to need to hone in into what our selling point is and innovate on that front and put out something that's really bold. And I think you guys are doing that. You know, you're putting us ahead of the curve, and it's really exciting to see how you're forming the building blocks of DeFi on Celo. So yeah, thank you so much for that. Awesome. So before I close off, just wanted to thank all of you. Thank you so much for coming. For our audience, please follow Moola, Mobius, Ube, GoodGhosting, and Dahlia on Twitter and their Discords. Their Discord communities are amazing, and I'm always into them. You know, going in, coming out, getting a lot of awesome findings and learnings. Follow us too. The Celo RNI, we've just launched our own Twitter, so it's called Celo RNI, and we're usually posting a lot of our findings and things that we're excited about on there. And if any of you guys are builders and you want to kind of do a cool project with us or explore something, feel free to DM us on Twitter or even send us an email at innovation@celo.org. So yeah, thank you so much, guys. Really appreciate you giving me your time. Have a great rest of the day.
You.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you. Have a great day.
Bye.